He said, here's the thing. He said, Gaston is the opposite of the beast. You know, so you have the beast who is really scary at first, really scary, and we find out throughout the story he's actually a good guy and kind of has a heart of gold. And then you have Gaston, and he is a handsome dude, and the audience should think, well, maybe you should marry Belle. You know, he's good looking. And then through the story we find out he's a male chauvinist, he's an idiot, he's in love with only himself, narcissist, and he becomes a murderer in the end. So all that has to be very clear, also graphically in terms of design. So I remember seeing and thinking, yeah, I get this. But I did tell him, I said, that's going to be so much more difficult to animate. And he said, well, nobody said it was going to be easy. And the meeting was over. So it was up to me to mess with that. But I did mess with it because I could not animate the guy like Prince Philip from Sleeping Beauty or the Prince and Cinderella. It just wouldn't have worked. So I snuck in a little bit more caricature than maybe they were asking for, but I just had to because otherwise this thing wouldn't come to life. So when he's posing, he's like really posing. You do a cartoon version of that, you know, with gigantic biceps, and they don't really make sense, but they did buy it. They did buy that because that was balanced with normal acting scenes where he's just talking and maybe be less caricature. So I found that mix. But it was a fine line, you know. If you do him too realistic, he's dead. If you do him too cartoony, he becomes a Bugs Bunny character, you know. So it's walking that fine line. So when people ask me what was the most difficult character you ever animated, this guy. One line was, and every last inch of me is covered with hair. So we had to show that. And there was a story sketch where he would actually open up this collar thing and show his chest hair. And throughout the film, up until then, I hadn't really drawn any chest hair, but for this, you had to do it. And I gave it to an animator in my crew. I didn't feel like I had to animate this particular one, so he got the turn and then the opening. He got that right, but then he drew the chest hair. And I'm going to do an overlay. That's what I'm going to do. So. Let's say he would end up in his pose by opening up his arms, his hands. And then this would be kind of pulled like that, and then, you know, the collar would be all down here. So when you flip this, you know, he's opening this up. I'm just going to keep everything for the moment in place here, even though you need to change on that too. But so this would be his chest. So this is what the first version looked like. Like that. And I'm going like, when I saw the pencil test in Davies, I said, that looks weird. That looks really weird. And some people said, no, that looks really cool. I'm going, no, it looks weird to me. And then people say, well, how would you draw it? I said, well, I don't know, but not like that. and then everybody seemed to have an opinion about what that should look like. And I said, okay, let's do that one key drawing without the hair and Xerox that, and then you can design your own hair. And so then I got all these versions. I got these curlicues, I got this hair, you know, and some little dots in there, and everybody had their own version. You know. And then in the end, I said, well, let's do the curls, but not as big. So we ended up doing, I think, something in a more or less regular pattern with a few dots in there. It was a little bit like that. So the effects animator said, well, let me take care of that because there's a turn, so that this whole thing has to turn in perspective. You can't use the same drawing. But he kind of did. So when he turns, when you see it now, so I challenge you to go home and look at it frame by frame. It doesn't quite follow the perspective 100%, sort of like 80% correct. It needed one more time to be gone over. But yeah, it became this big issue that took weeks to fix, and something completely unexpected. Gaston's chest hair became an issue. So sometimes you run into these things and you're like, what the heck? Why are we even messing with this? But no, unacceptable. Lion King was done almost simultaneously with Pocahontas. After Aladdin, the crew was split in two because Disney wanted to have more movies. We also had complained that we only have 12 months to animate each film, and it's getting just a little hectic, you know, and we don't really have any time for ourselves, for family, friends, weekends. It was just work, work, work. And so I said, okay, we're going to split you in two. That way we get more movies, and you guys are happier. And we give each movie a year and a half to be animated, not a year. So the big difference, change our lives. But then, first time we had two movies going, and at the time, Lion King was called King of the Jungle, and it was Katzenberg, and I think even it might have come from Iceland, the idea to do something in Africa with local animals. Let's do a lion growing up, becoming a lion king in the end. There really wasn't much there. And Pocahontas was like Romeo and Juliet, you know, the old story about these two people falling in love from completely different camps, you know, and that was solid. And you could hang your hat on it. And so the studio really told the animators, you have a choice. Do you want to do Pocahontas or do you want to do Lion King? Well, guess what? Everybody ran to Pocahontas. Really. Because their visual development art was already very enticing and beautiful. Mike Gabriel had done a lot of that, and it just seemed more solid. Well, it's going to happen with this lion cub. They called it actually Bambi in Africa. That was the nickname, like, you know, this animal growing up, and there's nature and there's Africa, and so what, you know. But I wanted to work on Lion King because of my love of animals and wildlife, and of course because of my love for the Jungle Book, which was all animals, my favorite Disney movie still. And so I said, no, I'm going to stick around and just hope that they're going to find a good story for this thing. And but yeah, even Katzenberg said early on, he didn't put all his money into Pocahontas, but most of it. He said, that's already, just what I just said, solid, that's going to make a zillion amount of dollars. And he said, if Lion King breaks even, you know, makes like $50 million, he'd be happy, and he would even get on his knees. He said that. And he did. Afterwards, you know, after Lion King had come up, because Lion King was first, and Pocahontas followed the next year. And Lion King just went through the roof. But that's because it became a really good movie, you know, and this year, the movie's 30 years old, and we've had a few panels at the studio and other outfits where Don Hahn, the producer, and the directors and I talked about making the film. And from my perspective, so much could have gone wrong because the directors, Rob and Roger, did it for the first time directing a movie. Lots of animators who were given a chance to lead a character for the first time. I was one of the senior guys, Mark Henn was one of the senior guys, Ruben Aquino, but a lot of new people. You've never done this, you've never led a character. You do Zazu, you do Pumbaa, you do Timon, you know, people had never done this, so you don't know if they're coming through and you know how that's going to pay off. But that was the philosophy, because so much A talent had run to Pocahontas, and then the thing just exploded. But this was a character about acting. Scar was all about interesting acting because largely, I would say, it was the voice. performance that influenced the character, because I'm not saying that anything was wrong with, actually the opposite, that anything was wrong with the way his dialogue was written, Scar's dialogue, but he takes it to another level. You know, the way he reads the sentence and the way he gave sort of a dangerous intelligence to Scar, that was just awesome. That was insane. And like I just said, I had just done 2 villains. I had done Gaston and Jafar, and now the next one, I thought, well, of course it's not going to be my turn, obviously. So maybe I look at the storyboards, there's Simba, and there's Rafiki, and other characters, you know, thinking which I might animate, and then somebody said, Andreas, guess what? They had just recorded some test dialogue with Jeremy Irons, you should listen to it. I said, yeah, I want to, and I listened to it. It was incredible from the start. It's just incredible. And it's the kind of thing you close your eyes and yeah, I can see the whole thing. I can just see it. I can taste it. You know? So I went into the director's office to Robin and Roger. I said, look guys, I know it's not my turn to do the villain. I just done 2, but after listening to Jeremy Irons' dialogue, all I can say is I think I can do something with something good. And I remember even them looking over their desks and I said, yeah, it's fine. Kind of had you in mind. Anyway, relief. And then I went to town and I relished every single scene with that character, because there was never a doubt how I would play it. Because often you listen to the dialogue, you look at the storyboard, and you say, you know, you could do it like this, you could do it like that. 3 versions, 4 versions, you thumbnail them out. It's always clear how to play this. So it's just the joy. This guy. And he's the only lion, main lion anyway, but who has his mane combed backward. It's not falling forward like Simba and Mufasa, because of his film roles, you know. In Reversal of Fortune, he played this business guy who had this sort of, there was some product in his hair. So I said, okay, Scar is going to have some product in his mane, you know, and kind of going backward, just to make him look different than the other lions. You know? You can argue he looks too different, but I don't care. And then we had meetings, or a meeting about this Scar, you know, he's called Scar, so obviously he has to have one, but where's it going to be, you know, on his leg, on his shoulder, his back, and so we had a meeting about it, and I said, well, if it's on his face somewhere, then you see it in close-up and in long shots. You always see it, while if it's somewhere else, you don't see it in close-up. So then I kind of placed it over his left eye unit, and we never really explained that how he got it. It's not really that important either. I always thought that he got into a fight with some lion and got it scratched and hit this and this, but kind of bypassed the eye, because this sticks out and the cheekbone sticks out. So that was just my theory behind it. And So yeah. Looks vaguely like him.